3,
Okay.
2, 1. I got with me here Rick Dancer for the third appearance, maybe fourth. It's been a while.
Yeah, because when you first were starting,
Yeah.
I was one of your first.
You were one of the very early people to.
I was one of your first.
Yeah, you were. You hopped on the show. I met you at your place, and I was like, "Damn, this is surprisingly nice." And you do video work as well. What have you been up to since we last spoke, which is probably about a year ago, right early COVID? We talked, and then I went on hiatus.
During COVID, I stayed working because I could do it I think one of the things that COVID taught a lot of us is what we could do differently and to scrap.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of my restaurant clients were, suffering and they couldn't do it. So I just went to all of them and said, okay, I'm going to do 2 months for free till we get you through this. And I'll just do it. So I tightened my belt, they tightened their belt, and we did it. And some of them I gained and some of them I lost. But then people just keep coming, because we're getting a lot of views and a lot of people listening, and
Nice.
Some people angry, some people happy. It's kind of,
That's how you know you're doing something right.
Seriously, it was always true in the news business, and I think it's even more true today now, is if everybody's happy with you, you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
And, and it's hard because I've never had the criticism that I've had doing my life right now, ever. And I think what people saw was I get a lot of people and not a lot, because I've got a lot more viewers than I've ever had and since I've done this, but
Sure.
you'll get people on and say, I used to really like you.
I used to
like,
really
well,
like you.
really what you liked was what you thought you knew.
I had someone say that word to me in a small intimate gathering. It came out that at the time I was unvaccinated. It was like 2 weeks ago or however long. And he's like, that's a bummer because I was just starting to, or I liked you. And I'm like, that's the way you're living your life. And now I got the J&J. I think less of myself, but I took the leap because, I mean, I can't travel. I missed my brother's wedding, like all these things because of it. I'm like, fuck. At some point, I'm like, I don't really care that much. But my Lord, the fact that people just say stuff like that, like, oh, I used to like you until this one political divide got in my way of interpersonal connection.
Well, it's become this thing, I think, especially I see it in Oregon a lot, is where there's certain, it really is, what's the term they use all the time? Virtue signaling.
Absolutely.
So it's like, if I got the jab and you didn't, I'm better than you. If I'm a Republican, I'm worse than you're terrible. Yeah. It's labeling stuff. And I had a lady who does bully research on my page, bullying me to no end. And I thought, so she's been nasty as hell.
Yeah.
And I finally went on, and she was going on, and I said, person, I understand why you're an expert at bullying, because you are the biggest bully. But I said, you might want to pay attention to this. Mm-hmm. In 2 years, when people see how nasty you've been, how is that research? What's that kind of, somebody's looking at your research going, what the hell do you really know?
Well, there's actually a researcher researching her.
Yeah.
It's like a string of them, and they're actually a worse bully.
Well, it's kind of like it tells on you. You know what I mean? I think the other thing that I've appreciated about the reaction to COVID, I think, is that you really see people pushed to the limit of how fearful are you? What are you, how big a thing is, my wife and I have been really surprised, like in some cases, sometimes you'll see somebody in the reaction to it and you'll go, I kind of thought that's interesting. I kind of thought they might be like that under pressure like that. Or other people that totally surprise you where they go, you know what? I think people should be able to do what they need to do.
The most surprising people.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
And then
cool.
others who you think are like super, I have some friends that are, I think most people would think were super right wing, and they've been kind of almost quietly super afraid.
And fear does crazy things to people.
It's what's so weird, Tiger, is when this came up, I had a business coach at the time, and we were just got through with like 2 months of talking about fear and how it ruins your business and it keeps you from doing what you're supposed to do. Yeah. So I felt like, whatever you believe, the gods, God, whatever, was setting me up and going, you're going to learn this whole thing about fear, and then all of a sudden, here's the education now. Boom!
Yeah, really, though.
And it was like, but watching and going, you know what? Nobody makes good decisions when you're fearful. No. You know what I mean? When you're afraid, you make I make the worst decisions.
And that's why I didn't get the jab for so long, is I'm like, that's me giving into fear-based decision-making and living of like, oh, this is something that I have to be afraid of. Or like, if I was obese, if I was like my grandma, 89, I'm like, they should get it. I support those people
Right.
getting it. I'm not like blatantly against everyone getting it, but I'm like a healthy 23, 24-year-old. I'm like, I don't know about that. But I'm like, at a certain point, it's just getting to this point. I mean, you've probably seen stuff about, not to make this whole political, but like, I don't know. I just see Australia and I'm like, anything that I can do to fight against big pharma and stuff, I want to do.
Well, a friend of mine and I were talking, and about, 2 years ago, no one would be supporting big pharma.
No one.
And now it's like, well, they couldn't be doing something
Yeah,
bad.
no.
No, they've always done something
I
bad.
know,
I mean, nothing changed.
Flip of a switch from
Yeah.
anti like capitalism and anti big pharma to no, support them. Let's help them out. And I'm like,
Well,
I feel morally bad doing that, guys.
When I've used this before, but when I first moved to Eugene, you'd see an old shitty Volvo with smoke coming out the back, and it would have its bumper stickers would say, "Kill your TV, don't trust authority, don't trust the government, and coexist."
Yeah.
The only bumper sticker right now
Yeah.
that is not a Republican is coexist.
Coexist.
Everything else, that Democrat Volvo is now a Republican, and the Republicans have become the Democrats. And it's
So
like,
funny.
that's why I can't stand parties, because they're
yeah.
so fickle. It's like, what? So this isn't how Democrats act. My great-grandparents were Democrats. They'd be rolling over in their grave to see what's happening
People
right
are
now.
just waiting for something to get mad at me. I mean, literally, like, we're in a group called, like, Americanet, because someone in it, like, can't talk to people who are outside the country without doing paperwork, and it's, like, an American flag. It's called Americanet. And I'm like, I don't open it in public, because I'm like, people literally, because of the American flag, will be like, boom, alt-right. And I'm
Right.
like, oh, my Lord. It's
Right. No,
it's at a wild place.
No,
you
it's
know?
and I think it's really sad when we live in a country now where the first thing you do is you label and belittle and bully and try to discredit people for what you think. I get the same thing. It's like, you're alt-right.
Yeah.
No, I'm not alt-right. And people don't even know what alt-right is.
To be fair, I typecast you as a motorcyclist.
Right.
So I'm sure it's like people just want to put people in groups. Like, well, what group are you most closely associated with? Because I don't like some groups and I like other groups. And it's like, no, split people down into the individual, not into groups.
Try being on TV for 25 years and then
Yeah.
having people go, "Wait, I always thought you were this." Well, you didn't know me.
You're reading a prompter.
You're seeing a guy on TV, and then plus, have you guys ever heard of that people change?
Yeah, seriously.
That we turn into different people, not that our core basic values. But I mean, when I was younger, I've been a Democrat, I've been a Republican, I've been a non-affiliated voter, I've been an independent voter, and now I'm a non-affiliated voter again because I saw the light.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? You guys are all the same thing. Even the independent party is just like the other two parties. Kiss ass, kiss ass, kiss ass, kiss ass. Who gets ahead? And it's like, and if we have a supermajority of Democrats right now in Oregon, it's a terrible thing. Terrible thing. But it would be just as terrible if we had a supermajority of Republicans.
Absolutely.
And that's what people keep forgetting. And they get there by cheating. Right now they're redistricting the state. I have a show tonight on that. And they're redistricting the state, and the Ds are drawing it so that, okay, so you're supposed to be in a like district, like-minded people,
like
not
the
like
Whitaker
everybody agrees.
Yeah.
Like the
Like Portland's drawn really weird kind of situation.
well, ours, okay, so I live out east of Springfield.
Yeah.
I'm in my group is me, Cresswell, Cottage Grove, and then South Eugene and University of Oregon.
Oh,
So do you think
it's
any of
not
our
the
votes
same.
or ideas even count? What they
Compared
do
to
is
the
they
U of
put
O.
it in this group so that they know that that's going to all turn into a Democratic
Gerrymander
place.
the heck out of it all.
And in Portland, there's
Yeah.
districts, 18 different spirals go out into the country, and then all of them join into Portland so that it
In
waters it
some
all
of the
down.
city,
See,
yeah,
and
it's
what's wrong with
wild.
that is that's cheating.
It's ridiculous.
If you do a real election and people really do, you have more Democrats in Oregon, then that's good.
Yeah.
Because that's what we really do. But when you cheat and make it look that way, there's rural Oregonians who feel like nobody represents them because they don't. They're voiceless.
Yeah, it goes down even further to the point, like, a lot of people I know pick whatever political party based on how much, like, ads get pushed to them from
Right.
people. Like, I mean, Bloomberg spent $500 million on the East Coast, and my grandma voted for Bloomberg. Like, there's a certain amount of people, like, we can only withstand so much propaganda or, like,
Right.
ads before we're like, okay, I guess this person makes sense. It's like, there should be, like, limits on spending. But I really want to touch on it before we go too far into this. You said you live over there, so you were evacuated or your fire got burnt down last year? What
No, I
happened
did. My
with
house
that?
stayed. I was evacuated. So
Oof.
for 7 days, it was like you're leaving your house and you're
Yeah.
like,
What do you grab at that
I don't
point?
know. Okay, okay. So here's what you do.
Yeah.
So we had like a 24 hours. So
Good.
the first thing we did was all your photo albums,
Mm-hmm.
and then We went through.
I got my phone. Got that.
Oh yeah, you get your phone, and then you get.
Or no, because the photo albums, like me, like I literally,
Well, that's you. Yeah, I'm talking about old people like me.
Yeah.
We actually have these things called photo albums. It's kind of like, do you know there used to be LPs? They
like
were
a vinyl?
records.
Yeah.
No.
Weird.
So we got our photo albums. We got all the records from our business, all the records from our house, and then you go through and you start looking at other stuff, and you realize, because we were sitting there, we had neighbors that were packing up furniture and stuff, and my wife and I looked at each other and we just went, you know what? We can't do that.
No.
I can't. So the only thing we did that was like really odd, I mean crazy, is we have a Persian rug that we got as a inherited piece.
Yeah.
And one time a guy from Iran came to our house, and he's a friend of ours. He came in, he walked in, looked at it, and said, "Do you know what that is?" And I says, "Well, I know it has papers." Did you know that rugs have papers?
Really?
They do.
Holy
Mackenzie,
cow.
they have papers.
Authenticity.
Yeah, it's like a paper.
Yeah.
And you go, no, it had. I said, I don't know, honey, what the fuck that is. But it's a
Registered rug.
It's a rug.
Yeah.
And it's probably worth a lot of money. And if that burns up, I'll kill myself. You know what I mean? It's like I'm going. So we rolled this big rug up, stuck it in the back of her 4Runner, and we're driving around for 7 days with this rug in the car and the paper. We kept the paper too.
You gotta keep the paper registered.
So, but it's like that's the only thing, because I thought that would be the thing, because everything else, But I thought, well, I mean, what if that thing's worth like $50,000 and you let it burn up? It's like that's that's a chunk of change.
And beyond that, like buying a new couch, you just go wherever. But buying a new nice rug, rugs are kind of hard to find once. So you're like, that rug makes a room.
And I would never have the money to
to
say, okay,
there isn't even a Persia anymore.
Honey, let's go buy like a $40,000 rug.
Oh,
It's like, or a car.
Oh, it's wild to think of money in terms of that. I mean, people spending like hundreds of dollars, like NFTs and stuff, like $100,000 on a profile picture for Twitter or like TikTok. Right. It's like, what's going on?
Okay, so here's what I wonder.
Yeah.
A friend of mine and I were talking yesterday at lunch, and he said, what if this is a way that the world has gotten so fucked up and so out of whack, and we're such consumer whores and everything, that COVID has been a way that all of a sudden it's a balancing thing to go, you know what, what's really important? What do you really need? And I'm going to speak just for myself. Yeah. How important is freedom and liberty to you? Yeah. Because you've never had to do anything. I'm like 62 years old. I missed the draft. So there's for me down, there's a whole 2 generations of people who've never had to fight for freedom. And now all of a sudden we're having to fight for freedom to choose medically what we want to do, whether you're in Texas wanting to get an abortion or whether you're in Oregon wanting to keep your job and not give up your retirement
this time
for a fucking mandated jab. And did you hear the governor today? Now they're giving him till November 30th.
Nice.
They increased it, but the bottom line is, why don't you just say it's up to you?
I know.
Could you just keep pushing it out? Like the people that aren't doing it aren't going to go, oh, another 30 days. Sure. I can get convinced.
I'll get it then.
Okay, here's another question I have.
Yeah.
So COVID has been like a health crisis, right? Mm-hmm. And so the most susceptible people of dying are people with diabetes, overweight, heart problems, that kind of thing. So where's the campaign been with all these millions of dollars were spent on guilting people into getting a jab? Where's the campaign that says, hey, let's get healthy?
Stop
America, stop eating Jack in the Box.
Kids. Yeah.
I mean, juvenile diabetes is up like 200,000%.
It's so heartbreaking when you see a fat kid, like really, because you're like, this isn't him. It's literally probably his parents.
Right.
Just feeding. And the school, it's like, oh.
But we as a culture.
School system screws them.
I heard it. This is, and he was like a super earth dude. He was awesome. But he was talking about school lunch program. He says, you know what they're feeding them? Those are basically chemicals with flavor. And he says, and that's why juvenile diabetes, and they don't even call it juvenile diabetes anymore because it's affecting mostly adults now.
Fat-ass kid syndrome.
So it's diabetes 1 and type 2.
Yeah.
And he says the problem is people are not just eating processed food, because he said, I wanted to know this too, I thought it was interesting. The processed food is like canned beans. They're still okay, but it's processed. Ultra-processed foods are yogurts that don't, like if you get a yogurt, it doesn't have to be refrigerated.
Yogurt. Oh, I've never, like a Go-Gurt or something? Because we get like
that's what it is. It's chemicals with flavor. Yeah. Isn't that disgusting?
Like Icelandic yogurt and stuff like that. I thought you were like coming at like good, like thick yogurt.
No.
Okay, I was gonna be like, what?
No, an ultra processed food is something that really is, there's no food in it.
Shelf life over everything.
And that's what people are eating. And he says, and that's why people are so sick, because your body does not know how to register and digest that stuff.
I mean, we get Taco Bell and I'm low energy. I mean, you've
Right.
you know, throughout your life, have you had like periods of low energy, like maybe not like depressions, but like just places where you get like you wake up in the morning, you're like, I have no energy. I mean,
Right.
we just finished like pretty much a month of sleeping for like 12 hours a day, and now I'm like 6 hours a day, and I'm like feeling a lot more amped. But I'm like,
Right.
what goes on? I'm like, it's probably the food I'm eating.
Right.
You know?
And I think, I mean, I don't know about you. I struggle with depression. I mean, I think that's a real thing, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not clinically depressed. I'm not going to put myself in a camp of people that really that there really is an issue for them. I'm not going to, it's not like that. But, you know, you get in those places where you just cannot get out of it. And COVID's been, I think, a mental health nightmare. And I mean, it's like every day trying to go, and then you have people beating you up because you're asking questions. And honestly, I don't give a fuck, because it's like, you know what? I'm going to ask questions because I'm a reporter, and you better ask questions, because if you believe everything you're being told, you're stupid. And it doesn't mean I know COVID's real. I've had friends die of it. I've had people come on my page and say, I hope you die. I hope you and your family.
God.
No. I hope you and your
then they
family
think they're
get
doing the
COVID so
right
you'll know
thing.
what it feels like.
It's ridiculous.
And
that
then I
people
had
just
somebody
think
win
that
the
way.
fire.
Yeah.
Somebody actually went on my page, and there's somebody that liked me, and they said, what you're doing, I hope your house burns. And I'm like, oh my God. So I said,
I couldn't
you know,
imagine typing those words
No.
out to a person. Like, why are they watching you?
I said, yeah, that's what I think. I think if you don't like me, just get the fuck out of my page, you know?
People like to be angry is what it
Right.
comes down to. People want something to be mad about. You know, it's like they get some sort of enjoyment. Like maybe that's the only way they can feel emotions, or not just
It's
flatlined.
just an outlet that
an
they
outlet.
can take,
Yeah.
and it's easy, and it's
I
kind
threw
of
it
a
back and
coward
said,
move.
can you look in your front yard and see if you have a kindness,
Yeah,
choose
kindness.
kindness poster in your front yard? Because I bet you do. And that shut him up really fast.
Yeah, Kenzie and I wanted to print on shirts because like we just make shirts and sweatshirts. Choose chaos, you know, just the exact
They
opposite.
should do this. Like, choose chaos, and on the backside, or it'll choose you.
Or it'll choose you. I like that. That'd be pretty good. Yeah, you know, all those choose kindness things. I mean, wait, you gave a speech when I first met you before you ever came on the show. Was it a kindness like award? It was like at a town hall. I mean, it was 2 years ago. Why would we remember that?
No, I got invited to go with a friend of mine who experiences Down syndrome, and it was a kinder Eugene or something.
That's what it was.
And so Amelia Abel and I went up and spoke. And before I went into that, a bunch of homeless protester folks, they weren't homeless, they were protesters for homeless issues, were outside screaming at these people going into this kindness seminar, which I found funny. And then they saw me and they're going, Rick Dancer, you hate the homeless, you're fucked, and all this kind of stuff. And they're yelling. And I just walked up to the lady and I said, the only person I see who's not being kind right now is you.
Yeah.
And she looked at me, and then I said, and I got really close, and this is pre-COVID, and I said,
This is
and I'm
pre-COVID.
the one who got asked to speak at the kindness thing, not you.
Yeah.
And she goes,
Oof.
fuck you, fuck
Yeah.
you. And I just walked in, and
Nice.
you know.
Yeah, it's so weird. There's like pre-COVID and post-COVID because I'm like, for a long time,
It feels like it's been COVID for ever. Doesn't it?
forever. Yeah.
I think people are just over it.
I'm personally over it, and that's why, like, sometimes I invite people up. They're like, "You're not vaxxed? Oh, I can't do your show." And now that I'm vaxxed, I'm like, "Okay, there's no excuses. Like, you should feel safe." And for whatever reason, like, you feel like I'm not gonna be a vector of disease for however, like, the mental gymnastics that works. So I'm like, it's over for me now. Like,
Right.
I'll wear a mask in a store as long as it's mandatory. But I'm like, I don't want to get another jab. We were out for a week. I woke up with like
two.
shake.
We
Yeah.
were literally-
What,
We got-
because of the
Because
reaction
of
to
the
it?
J&J, and I specifically got the non-mRNA because I'm like, I don't know. I just want one
So
shot.
you had so tell me what you experienced.
I woke up and we partied that night.
Probably
Party.
not.
partied.
Not Mackenzie.
Yeah,
Not
no,
the
I
best decision.
I partied that night, and so we went to bed at like 4 a.m. and then I wake up at like 5, like shaking, and I like have to Google the symptoms because I'm like, is this the bad one? And people are like, nope, you get extreme chills. I'm like, what the fuck?
And like when you got the shot,
Yeah.
the pharmacist wasn't
Didn't
like
tell me anything.
Didn't tell him anything. It was
Nothing.
Like, here you go.
Yeah, and she's
then
like,
it's like over.
she's like, you should stay in the store for 15 minutes in case you pass out. I'm like, I'm gonna go
Who
home.
at Bimart is
Yeah.
gonna help
Should-
Yeah,
me?
seriously,
Yeah.
Weimar.
Of all
So-
places.
So
I'm like,
question. So can you tell me before you give the shot next time? And
Yeah.
and the third thing is, so if just a question. If I do pass out, do you give me mouth to mouth? Or because I just got the vaccine, are you not going to give me mouth to mouth?
Seriously.
You know?
They'd probably just set an ice pack on me and be like, he's okay. Like, still
That's
lying
so
in the floor. I'm like,
funny.
I'd rather be in a car than in a Bi-Mart. if I
I'd come up and
passed out.
slap you, yeah. If I'm going to die, I don't want to die in Bi-Mart.
I wanna die in Bi-Mart.
Oh my God, I'm going to die and it's going to be in that, you know, the aisle with all the really cheap food? You know that you go, I'm going to die in the processed food aisle.
Yeah, seriously. After getting a shot to be healthy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's a nightmare. So like we just immediately get in the car and we do the whole. I mean, probably before the partying, we immediately go get a Crunchwrap Supreme. We couldn't have played that worse if we're being honest.
No,
but
we
I'm
did
like,
not do what
now
we're
it's
supposed
over. I'm officially done with. Like most shows, I don't ever bring it up, but like you're very heavily involved in Paul. I saw a billboard with you on it. I was like, holy cow, this guy's in it.
That got me a
Knees deep.
lot of friends.
Yeah, I you. I didn't even know what it was. They just took a picture of me in front of a green screen.
No,
Oh my god.
No, Dennis is a client of mine. He's a really good friend, and he said, "I want to do something on Back the Blue." And I said, "I totally agree with you." But I said we have to say Back the Blue too, because I don't want people, which they did anyway, to misconstrue. It doesn't mean I don't back black people or Latinos or anything else. It means I back the blue also. In addition to, and I knew because I said to the dentist, I said, okay, so Christy Kilcullen, her husband was murdered, you know, in a traffic stop on that road. That's why we put it there.
Yep.
So nobody's gonna pick on her.
Yeah.
You know, and few people did. The dentist, he got a sign ripped down, and a bunch of people tried to send the health department in to shut him down because they really did. Wow. They all ganged up on him, called the health department, and tried to get him shut down. But he's doing everything right, so it didn't shut him down. But I said, but me, oh God, I just got just ridiculed. And Rick Dancer, he hates this, and he's that, I hate that. One page was going on, he's such an arrogant prick. I hate that guy. He thinks he's so cool, on and on and on and on. So I went on the page as me.
Yeah.
I said, oh my God, you don't even know the half of it. I live with this guy.
Double down
I
on
sleep with him every
Yeah.
night. And I said, he's arrogant, he's snotty, he thinks he's really cool. And I said, the only reason I stay with him is because he's so fucking good looking.
Yeah, he's got a damn nice beard.
And then I left it,
Yeah.
and nobody else responded. And my wife's like,
so
did you
funny.
seriously say that? I go, yeah. That's what they want to hear. So,
That's the place I want to get in my life where I can just tell people.
you know, I think it happens when you're older. Because I think 62, I used to watch older people, and I'd think, I kind of want to be a crabby old man like that. Like I could just throw it. And I don't think I'm crabby, but it's like, you know what? I've been through so many things in my life. I've survived cancer, all the different stuff. And it's like, you're going to fuck with me over this? No.
Seriously.
You know, and it's like, I'm not going to do that. And plus, I want to show other people, you don't have to take this. You know, bullying is bullying. And when people do that, you know, I had 11 people at Winco the other day walk up to me and say,
Oh my God.
No, I mean through the store, but they walk up and they said one at a time. I mean, it's just people walking
just-
up and they look over and they go, thank you for being a voice for us.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, you're welcome.
Score.
And it was like,
Does it balance out a
and
little
these are
bit?
people that are scared. You know, they're scared to say anything.
Unlike the place that
And-
they kind of boycotted or tried to call the health authorities on, it's got to be a joy to be at a place where you're kind of above. Like, you can't get fired because you're your own
Yeah.
boss. Like,
That's
you,
true,
You
Deez.
have a freedom that not very many people ever get to experience. Like,
Yeah.
having people on the show, some people are like, I can't talk about, like, substances or I can't talk about this or that because, like, my employer might see it. And I'm like, fuck. Whereas I'm
Yeah.
like, it's really joyful, and I think everyone would be so much happier if they're like, oh, I get to express myself fully,
Right.
and my job isn't going to fire me for, like, just who I am in my free time. It's like people get owned by their jobs.
Right.
So
well, you know,
congrats for
and
being
I've
in a
had
place.
people try to attack my clients that pay for my shows,
Whoa.
and they've come after them and say things. But I have a really good group of people right now that are super supportive of what I'm doing,
Score.
and so you can do that. But it's like, you know, I think, I hope we get back to a world where people can like have discussions again and we can have conversations and disagree. I mean, because, you know, people go, well, one of the funniest things a lady wrote one time, and I really loved it, because she goes, so she used to really harass me, and we'd fight back and forth, you know, just fun. It wasn't bad.
And
But
now
then,
you're best friends.
no. But now this other woman comes on and she goes, oh, I love watching your stuff, but God, sometimes I just really, most of the time I really don't like you. And then this other lady came on, that was the woman that I, you know. I don't know her, but she's been on for a long time. She goes, oh, I used to hate him. And she goes, I stay on here, but you get used to them.
You get used to
And she
them.
goes, now I agree with him like 10% of the time. And I'm going, you are my favorite viewer.
These people have nothing better to do than just watch stuff they don't like until they like it.
Why would you? Yeah.
Why would you ever?
But I think it was because
Oh.
she saw my heart. She kind of watched and went,
Nice.
oh, okay, he's just bringing up questions. And most people, that's what they get out of it is you're just asking, why is this okay?
Yeah.
And I heard a guy speaking on the radio the other day, and he was an ER doctor, and he says, I don't care vax or no vax. This isn't my debate.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing I've noticed in ER, and he was in Chicago or something.
Mm-hmm.
He said, the most intelligent people about COVID
Yeah.
are the anti-vaxxed. He says the people who are vaxxed know far less than the people who are not getting vaxxed.
Yeah.
And he said, so you're all out there making these people look stupid or trying to make them look stupid when really what I'm discovering is they know more about what it is, how it works, what's in it, all that stuff.
But hey.
And that's not everybody.
Believe science.
Right, yeah.
Just the blanket statement.
Yeah. Science went out so long ago.
I'm surprised that girl who's like, now I agree with 10% wasn't be like, yeah, I hated everything he said, but I just kept watching because of some animal magnetism. Now I kind of agree with the guy.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
way.
your wife must just kind of hate all the women's comment. Like, I mean,
Honestly, my wife has been. We've done some version of this for so long, like 35 years or something.
just gets
Public
it
eye.
now.
She doesn't pay attention.
nice.
I mean, she'll. She doesn't agree with me all the time, but she just doesn't pay attention. And that's I like it that way because
Yeah.
I mean she pays attention to our business because she manages everything. But when I'm doing my stuff and everything, she just goes, Rick, you got to go do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And I have my older son. He's a great guy, love him to death. But he'll go, Dad, I don't think you should be talking about that.
Yeah.
And I go, okay. And he goes, well, I said, well, I'm listening, but I'm not going to not do it, Jake.
Yeah.
Because
Do you ever
that's
have
who
them
I
on the
am."
show? Like,
No,
Because I was
but
gonna
both of
say.
my boys have been in videos before,
Mm-hmm.
but not. They're not like that. They do their own thing. They're very opinionated, but they do it on their own way. They don't. I think they learn from watching me that this is not a safe environment.
it's funny. I think
You know?
it's the safest environment in terms of allowing you to get to a place of freedom. Like, there's a certain thing of like working with your hands and all this stuff where it's like your input is directly related to your output. But like, because we're both in video work, there's something too. You make one video, you could make it for one person or 200,000 people. You do
Right.
the same amount of work, and it's like there's such a level of freedom when you incorporate something that's like just can radically be leveraged without extra work. Where I'm like, man, video work is. I mean, Kenzie's even getting into it now because. I mean, again, we're living here because I'm doing videography work, and it's just my life's transitioned more into it. And obviously, like, seeing you has been like one sign of like, oh, there's a hope, because everyone else in life, so what are you gonna do with video work? You're gonna make short films or something? I'm like, nobody
go
gets
to a
it.
regular job
Yeah.
and die.
Why don't you work
No.
in an office?
Well, see, and I, if I could go back, I would have left KEZI much sooner. Because
Gone
it
on your
destroyed me. I mean, it was sucking the life out of me.
Yeah.
Because the creativity, you couldn't do anything. Now, granted, I made a good living there, but the biggest risk I ever took was stepping out of that and jumping into politics and stuff. But it was a way out. I just had to get out of there because it was killing me.
Surprised you didn't end your last day with something that would go viral. Like, you just yell and speak your mind and be like, follow me on Instagram.
See, but it was a whole different time, and I think I've just become that person now because I understand. You know what I really understand? They can't hurt me.
Yeah.
You can hurt. No, I'll take that back.
They could have.
You can hurt me. You can try to destroy me.
Yeah.
But you can't kill me. I mean, you can literally kill me, but you can't kill my spirit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, you can literally kill me.
But you can't kill my spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, and I think that's what bothers people, and I'm passionate about it. I mean, so I had a business coach ask me, why do you do what you do? And I said, my answer's always been the same since I was in television. It was, I think people have a voice and they should be able to use it, whether I agree with them or not.
Love it.
And she said, why? And I went, I don't know. I mean, just think about it.
Yeah.
So I
It's
sat
innate.
there and I'm thinking, and all of a sudden I went, oh my God, my dad never listened to me. He never listened to me. He'd ask, what do you think we should do about this? I'd give him an answer, and he'd turn around and do something completely different. And she goes, so your dad's dysfunction created the man that you are today? And I went, yeah. And I rode with that.
Nice.
I think everybody should ask themselves, why do you do what you do? And then don't stop at the answer like I did.
Yeah.
Here's the pat answer. And that's really why I do it.
And then ask
But
why,
why do
yeah.
you do that?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
a good way
And
of
then
doing
you
it.
find your passion. So then when people say to you, well, why do you do video work? It's like, you know why? Because there's something inside of me. and you, I don't know what that is, but there's something in there that that feels avoided. It's not because I get so sick of people going, well, it makes me feel good. You know, it's like, no. This has to be more than a feeling.
Yeah.
Because you know what? When it doesn't feel good, then what the fuck do you do?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so you have to find the passion and the thing that what is it that steams that? What is
Feels
it
like
that's
you're being utilized
boiling?
to your greatest extent. And you're just
Right.
like, oh, this allows me to go. Like, it's pretty much limitless in terms of how good something could be with video. But I mean, like, I deal with a similar kind of graph, like, just in terms of giving everyone a voice. Like, I have very far right-wing people on this show sometimes, and I enjoy talking with them, and I joke around. I'm not just going to be like, oh, your views, like, I'm not just going to do that the whole time.
Right.
And, like, people are like, you really shouldn't host those people, because, like, I'm like, you're thinking that a listener or a viewer has so little, like, thought that they're going to listen to one person talk for an hour and be like, guess I'm right-wing now. I'm like, no, people are, they're sovereign. Like, people just don't respect others as having their own mind. I'm like, they can think for themselves. I can host far right and far left wing people. It's not going to change anyone's mind. No, you're not changing
and it
people's
shouldn't be
mind.
having a conversation. Shouldn't be. That's the problem. Is I think we think if I mean if I talk to you, if I badger you enough,
Yeah.
you'll finally get the shot.
You'll get
It's like,
it,
why
yeah.
don't you just put out some really, here, if I was Governor Brown, like not the second time that she locked us down again.
Yeah.
Here's what you do. I'd go in there and say, okay, listen, I understand we fucked some of this up. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been working with science, and science is not something you can just look at and go, it changes. Things change. So we have been, and we haven't done the best job of communicating that. And,
Or anything.
Yeah. And we've made mistakes.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm going to do. Oregonians are rugged individual people. You need to make up your own mind. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to mandate this, but we know that masks do this. We know that being in large groups of people. So I'm going to ask you to mask when you go into a place, but it's on you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take that on. I'm a governor. I'm not here to be the queen or to be your conscience. So I'm going to let you decide for yourself what's right for you and your community.
Yeah.
And then we're going to see how we get through this thing. I'll bet you $100
Yeah.
that more people would go out and do that.
Because it wouldn't be
Because
infringing
it's
on their
not-
freedom. It's
right.
Because there was an aspect to it that's why I didn't do it. I was like, I just don't like being forced to do something.
No,
that
you're
kinda goes
not
against my
alone on
morals.
that. I think,
yeah, it's like,
but that's
what the
being a
fuck?
human being.
Yeah.
There's some of us that are just. I think that's where there's people that go. Oh, we need to take care of this and get over it. Why can't you just do what everybody else is doing? It's like, what? Yeah. I mean, this sounds like the worst idea. I'm just gonna, because then where does it stop? I think that's the thing for me. That where does this stop?
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, Rick, we don't really like gray-haired people anymore. So we're gonna
mandate you diet.
We're gonna mandate that you're not
Dye
gonna
your
go
hair.
to these places. This is a place for younger people.
Yeah.
And
it sounds like a slippery slope fallacy, but you look at other countries like Australia and you're like, oh, it's not, because actual countries today are doing things like this. Like, you can go out 1 hour a day, and if you're vaccinated, you can go out 2 hours a day.
Right.
It's like, we need vitamin D particularly for, like, it's like, what's going on here?
So 10 years ago, nobody would dream this is happening. But if you sat down, and I'm not,
Nobody
I guess
would
I'm
dream
kind
this
of comparing it, but so what? People get all over that. But if you were in Germany, in Nazi Germany, I had a little lady call me from Germany. She lived in Germany. She's like 98 or something. And she says, Rick, when I was a kid, this is how it started. She goes, Hitler didn't start saying all Jewish people are this and this and this. It started with, there's just a problem, and they're kind of doing some things that don't work for the rest of us, and then it became worse and worse and worse, and all of a sudden it was all about them.
Vermin!
So they brainwashed them into thinking that. So now here we are with this, and you've got
We
people
have better instruments for brainwashing, too.
telling when
Like,
you can't
massage
go
it into people's
outside
head.
and how you can do it, when that doesn't make any sense. As you said, vitamin D is one of the things that stops it.
Totally.
And you don't spread it outside being, maybe at a duck football
Doesn't even
game or
make
something,
sense,
but to
yeah.
be like this, I mean.
And that is the thing. Like, I've been at like a couple, like, not even to name a local business, but like in an enclosed space with like a couple hundred people,
Like
and I'm
a
like,
bar.
this is the one place where I've actually felt like, oh, I don't, like, because if one person there was no ventilation whatsoever.
Right.
It was literally
It
like
was when
200
we
people
wearing
crammed
masks
in.
and
Yeah.
stuff. It was like, we got a little taste of freedom.
Yeah, I was
man.
like, man, okay, this is the one time where I'm like, kind of screw that. So, but
Yeah.
everywhere outside, like relatively fresh air. Just install fucking HEPA filters in places. Like, just get better airflow. Like, they did a thing, all those things that go down, they cause dead spots of air in rooms, and they make it worse for transmitting COVID because, like, then, like, a little bit gets under, and then it gets swept up, and the actual HEPA, or the HVAC systems in like big places don't work as well because they start blocking off the whole room. It was like a BBC. It was like a big article. It wasn't even like some like little like opinion piece. It was like a well-known thing. And it's like, but they're still going to keep them up.
Well, did you? A friend of mine was pointing this out. She's really, really funny, and she said, "So, Rick, what is it about the virus that you walk into a restaurant, you have a mask on, and you sit down, and then when you get back up, so maybe COVID is only like 4 feet off the ground, and anything over that, it doesn't go there." So she says, so if you just got up and you just walk to the bathroom,
you're good.
Low.
Like this,
Everyone can
you're not
crawl
gonna
without
get
a
COVID.
mask.
Yeah,
Well, it's
or
the
crab walk.
inconsistency.
Maybe we bear crab walk.
Yeah.
You know, if you crab walk to the bathroom,
You're good.
then you're
It'd
not
be a
going to
good
get it.
core workout.
It'd be
It would
great.
help the obesity.
It would help obesity.
See,
She's thinking.
but that was my other point that we were making before we got on this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Was that nobody ever did anything about getting healthy. Mm-hmm. And the best thing that could have saved those people from dying is to get all of us as Americans to start looking at the way we eat. What are we eating? What products are we putting in our body? And
what are we putting in our
but what do we do
brain?
normally
Everything.
as Americans? Yeah. We hide. Hey, I know, mask's the problem. Don't deal with it. Stay away from
everyone
people.
Stay inside and at home and don't get any social interaction.
Yeah,
even though that's crucial for mental health
And
overall health.
And
Screw
you're
the
seeing
kids, no
suicide rates
education.
up, but nobody talks about that.
We're
We didn't
saving
talk about
90-year-olds at the sake of 5-year-olds,
Right.
9-year-olds, like literally. But
Worth it.
To go back to like the dining table, that was the other thing. Is just the inconsistencies of like, okay, so if I have the antibodies and I have had COVID, why should I need the vaccine? And that was like my really biggest holdout for the longest time. And they proved that it's better. So I'm like, but I went to like 4 stores. I like called up a couple of places. They're like, we don't do antibody tests. So you can't actually check if you've had it because they just don't want you to be able to
Any
know.
lab tests now, Eugene, they're one of my clients. They do them. And now that you've had the jab, you could go in there and you can see how much antibody you have. They'll give you the list. They'll show you the numbers, and they'll show you where you are at with it. So,
Nice.
yeah, you can actually, and it's like
Any lab test.
any
here in
lab
Eugene.
test now, Eugene. It's over off of next to the what's that street with the G? Garfield.
Oh, cool.
And then there's that the
right around
clock
the
shop
corner.
right there.
Yeah.
So right in that little mall, that strip mall, it's any lab test now, and they don't take insurance, but you can go in there and just pay for it, and they do COVID testing. But that's one of I had it. No, Stephanie did it. The lady who owns it did it because she's had COVID twice,
Brutal.
and hers were really. But neither time was she really that sick.
Here's another example through like a little anecdote of like how little they care about your health. We went to the doctor. I just have like an ingrown toenail because the guy's just like, you gotta clip it better. I'm like, can you just get rid of it? He's like, we don't do preventative care here. And I was like, hey, how much would it cost to get a testosterone check? He's like, you don't need that. I'm like, yeah, but if I get a baseline now, then when I'm older and if I like feel unhealthy, then I can check it against my baseline. He's like, no, you don't need it. I'm like, bro. Like, I will pay out of pocket. How much is this? Like, can I get it? And it's just like this thing where like people don't value preventative care whatsoever.
Especially here.
Yeah, whatsoever.
Especially.
It's like, what's going on?
Yeah, see, that's why I love having them as a client because you can go in there. I can do all my tests for PSAs, everything I need done, and then I don't have to pay the doctor visit.
Are they
so
like
the system.
request? Like
Kind of, yeah, same
basic?
kind of thing, but there's private business. So you can go in there and have all your, like if you say, I'm going to have all my lab work done, then I can go online and read it. Or I could even go, if I'm real paranoid, I get that done, I go to the doctor, hand him the thing, say, tell me what this means.
Yeah.
But that's one appointment versus going to the doctor,
Getting
getting
a
the
referral.
exam, then going
Yeah,
back
the
to the doctor.
referral.
God, that
What is it
pisses
with
me off
referrals?
so bad.
Holy cow.
That is, I actually just canceled the doctor's appointment for tomorrow because it's telemed, which is not a big deal to me. But I started going, you know what? I know who I really need to talk to, and it's this doctor right here. I'm going to have to pay for this appointment so
Just
that
to
she
get
can say, you get to go here.
Criminal.
And so I'm going to call and just say to the person, how much is it for me to come in? Because I'll bet you
It's cheaper.
it's going to be cheaper for me just to go straight there. And I told my wife, plus I don't want to go to her and talk about this. I want to go talk to the person who knows what I'm talking about.
No, no,
Because
no.
what if she says, because this is what always happened, this might be this.
Yeah, they try
then
to
it's in
talk
your
you
head.
out of stuff too.
Or
Oh,
they'll,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've definitely
Absolutely.
gone to the doctor and they're like, nah, you don't need that. And they just like convince you and they have the code and you get that like anxiety and you kind of shrink down. And
Yeah.
It's like,
And usually it comes with a drug.
I wish. I went in and I'm like, hey, can I get an Adderall prescription? And he's like, no. And then I, like, because I was up at college, and, like, the college specifically doesn't give Adderall prescriptions because everyone in college, like, wants it because it's like, man, just makes studying and everything easier. And so after college, I'm like, I still want it. And I went in there, like, there's no way we're going to give it to you. I'm like, man, I wish it was, like, everyone says it's, like, so easy to get, like, different things. Like, you can just get muscle relaxers and all this stuff. And I'm like,
we have advertisement for, like,
advertisement.
Like, I literally was just trying to do a little bit of research on, like, ADHD specifically in women. And the first thing that comes up on the web search is an ad for Vyvanse, which is like an Adderall adjacent kind of medication.
And so it's like, I'm trying to take it recreationally. I don't like have anything I want to take it for.
We worry about him that way, don't
we? But I'm like, it's just funny because I'm like, everyone prefers it as so easy. I'm like, they give it to 7-year-olds. I'm like, okay, like, am I going to take notes from a 7-year-old's doctor appointment? I'm like, okay, you say that, you fidget. Okay. I go in there, I'm like taking
notes. Get a 7-year-old and ask him all your issues. You got Adderall, so what did you do?
My drug dealer's a 7-year-old with ADHD because he has to sit for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, his name's Billy, but he's only 7.
His name's Billy.
He doesn't have a cell phone. We got to, like, go through this whole babysitting.
Yeah. I go through his babysitter. Yeah, no, it's fine.
It's fine. It's cool.
No, his mom doesn't know. It's a total babysitter.
Well, it's such a thing with, like, everyone has ADHD now. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to sit in an office for 8 hours a day, or first sit in school for 8 hours a day. I'm like, yeah, of course no one can, like, no one has an attention span that's that long to pay attention to something that doesn't help them be healthier or happier. It turns into money, which is like, people aren't good at turning money back into happiness and health. They can sell their happiness and health for money, and then they have this money, and they're like, how do I turn it back into it? And they're just screwed.
Right.
So it's like people get into and your whole life you're trained, like, no, that's the good trade. You want to trade away your life essence for this thing. It's like leverage for whatever idea you currently have, and then you don't have any ideas because you've wasted all your energy, and it's like people are just caught in a cycle.
So have you noticed, who do you think more overreacted to COVID? Like old people, millennials, grade school kids?
Anyone who owns a Twitter account, except me. It's pretty much anyone who's online most often.
I don't even know.
Like, are you saying age group?
Yeah.
I don't even know if it is like an age group thing. I feel like it's anyone who's really invested in politics and likes
either
to talk
side.
About and it's not even like one group in particular. It's literally just anyone.
My far right wing friends also just post about it constantly, and my far left wing friends. Anyone who's like kind of non-political, more toward the middle, is just like, don't take my freedoms. Who the fuck cares? But like people on the far left are like, my body, my choice. But not with this. But not with the vax. Then it's not your body, your choice.
I thought that was the most one of the most interesting things is when the Texas law came up.
Yeah.
And then now all of a sudden you have two things that if you look at them, you're going, okay, this is similar. And I mean, I don't say it on my own show, but it's like, there's a debate here.
Yeah.
It's like going, so I believe it's my body, my choice in Texas and everywhere else in terms of the jab.
Yeah.
But how interesting that there's a good section of these non-jabbers
mental jujitsu
that didn't think that over here in Texas, but then there's a lot of people that don't like what happened in Texas that think it's still okay over here.
It's wild.
I
don't understand how
critical
people
thinking skills. You know what I mean?
It's like
that's the meme. That's the gift that comes out of it. There's critical thinking skill. Just use that in reply for because people literally just are like, they hold two completely contradicting beliefs. They're like, okay, these two parts of my brain will never meet, and then I just don't have to think about it. As long as I keep them separate and I never like kind of meld the common, like the baseline thinking that leads to them, I'm good.
Because you could go in, if you thought about it, and you can say, okay, I don't agree with the abortion, or I don't agree with the jab, or I agree with the jab but not the abortion, and then but there's the conversation.
Yeah.
And what we do is we go, it's either this or this, nothing in the middle. It's like, there's a conversation that can happen if you can say, I like this one, I don't like this one. Well, I like this one, I don't have that. Okay, perfect. Now let's talk.
That would be great if it hasn't turned in. I've said it a couple times on the show, but politics has become the new religion. So your old religion. Now, new religion it's kind of like sports.
Totally
sports, like you have your flags and you have your teams mixed with religion because you get your entire belief system from one side.
Right.
So you're kind of like trying to convince a Jewish person, hey, don't be Jewish, or like whatever religion someone is, you're trying to talk them out of their core belief system and their whole team of their friends, and they're like, yeah, we rally together. You're trying to there's no way someone's ever going to sway away from that.
No.
And it's like, okay, we need
Especially
to
when you-
It's identity politics.
Yeah,
and
it
they've
is.
taken it and ruined everything because they've made it so that if you this and this is what makes you this. And it's like, and when did you become the high court that you get to tell me that I'm an alt left or an alt right or whatever the hell I
Alt
am?
left. I've never heard that, but that's hilarious.
Oh,
I'm going to start saying it.
I throw them all in the bucket. You
throw
know,
'em all in the
it's
bucket,
like
yeah.
I have no use for any party.
They're not free thinkers. They get all their belief system, like their entire beliefs align with one person or one
Right.
group. You don't think for yourself. You're just crowdsourcing your opinions.
Right.
You're literally just saying, well, whatever they say about, like sometimes like people, like an event will happen, a friend will like literally have one thought, and then like Tucker Carlson will say something, and then he changes it to match that. Or like same with like AOC or whatever, like on the left, like people like are like, okay, I'm gonna be really tactful about my answer until I hear what my thought leader says to say. And then I'll reform it.
Well, see, and I think that's what that emergency room doctor was saying is people were just regurgitating what they heard on the news. I think that, I mean, and, you know, and I don't care.
The news.
I think the news
What do you
has
know
been
about the
just,
news?
I think that has been, I have never seen, when I was there, if we did what they're doing now, I would have been fired. I mean, you can't take a side.
Yeah.
And they have taken,
Shouldn't
I
be
don't
able to.
watch, but I see it in the morning when I'm at the gym doing my stuff. I see all this shit up here and I look up there on those screens and I'm like, it's Fox and it's CNN and MSNBC. And I'm going, oh my God, if I sat home and paid attention to this, I'd be scared shitless.
Yeah, your brain would turn to mush. And it's almost like a kid's show. It's like a bunch of bright colors and like loud voices and
Especially
infographics.
Fox News. I don't know
Yeah.
how they like
They,
color
like,
grade it or
they
what,
take the
but it's-
vibrancy and they're like,
They do.
Max.
Yeah,
Good.
everybody looks cleaner.
Yeah.
And then you know what I mean? It's like angelic white everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
oh, here's the Fox lady. Oh, look,
And
everything's
really
white
bright
around
other-
her face.
yeah.
But Good Morning America, it's on one of our screens down there, and I'm looking up and going, and they take issues that are nothing, you know, and they make a big deal about it. Like it's like, well, you know, they'll do something. Oh, there's a new Bachelor's coming out, the new Bachelor show. And so the whole show keeps going back to the Bachelor. It's like, do you guys realize that nobody watches you? Look at your ratings; they suck.
I know.
And it's like, and you guys are covering things. We have a pandemic going on right now. We have the world is falling apart, and but thank God there's a cute girl or a cute boy on the Bachelorette or Bachelor
They
or
grab
whatever
you.
it is.
Rick, we know this. But our key demographic is people over 80 who are afraid, and we need to keep them afraid, or else they'll stop watching. If they don't think that they can turn to us as one sole solace, but really we make them more scared, we'll lose them forever, and then we'll have 0 viewers. And then they let go of you.
I saw an ad
So understand
I
that.
think it was the New York Times, and it was on Facebook, but it said, no, it was on the TV. It came up on the screen this morning. But it said something about, it was like, the New York Times, something about you trust us. And I said, they're telling me
Yeah.
you trust us. And I like, if you have to tell me that, you really are desperate because it's
Yeah.
not. But I bet that works on people.
I bet it works on
Your
people.
trrusted source, you know?
It's you and someone right next to you looking at the TV at the gym. Pff, what idiot would believe that? I do trust you. Just like sitting right next to you. I'm going to order you. Like,
Well,
what's going on?
I'm always surprised how many friends I'll have or people that I'm in a conversation with, and they assume that you believe what they believe. I think this is, you've
Yes.
experienced that. So it's like, okay, so, we both didn't get our vaccines and, da-da-da-da-da. You're sitting there going,
You're one of
you don't-
us, right?
So you're kind of like, you don't, and they assume that that's what you are, that's the camp you're in.
Yeah.
And I'm always thinking, okay, either you're just a fucking idiot
Yeah.
or you are arrogant because you think everybody would think like that.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of people in my life that really are in that place where they just assume, they'll say things to me and assume that I believe this. And I'm like going, and even in terms of like abortion and stuff, you'll have people ask you questions about it and they'll assume that I'm anti or supporting.
And why should
and
they
then they'll-
care? Like, it shouldn't
Oh,
even
when I
come
ran for
into
office
daily
as a
life.
Secretary
Oh,
of State,
then it
every
kinda
person,
matters.
but no, because
Well,
it
if
has
you're a
nothing to do with
politician.
me. That's what I used to say. You're asking me my opinion about abortion when
Yeah.
I cover
It makes
elections,
more sense than a
this stuff.
friendship.
If I was a
you're-
governor,
yeah, oh yeah, okay. I was
no,
like,
that's
I
the
thought
media. That's all they wanted to
okay.
know.
Yeah.
And what do you think about domestic partnerships? It's like that. Well,
have
does
to
that have
say
anything
on
to do
it.
with my job?
Yeah,
No.
seriously.
But if
But-
I was a legislator or somebody, then you can ask me. Or if it has to do something about a bill.
In day-to-day friendships, the core of it is people should let, like, if you voted differently from me, that should not matter. You should not see that person
Right.
any differently as a friend. It's like, what's that person's core values in terms of the way they act daily? Do you like that person or do you not want to be around that person? Not like, well, hypothetically, what are their abstract beliefs? Like, they and nobody they know are getting aborted. or abortions, but like their views on it still matter to you, and it's like this weird esoteric thing where people are like, I've been told it matters. I see it a lot on social media, so I feel like I'm forced to have an opinion. It's like we don't have to have opinions, and we don't have to care about others' opinions.
I think it's virtue signaling again.
It is.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, I believe this, and I always just call it.
Do you believe
culture.
that? You're so virtuous, Rick Dancer.
Yeah. I mean,
oh my God.
I believe this. I know.
You're so. I like you now. Now that I believe you like that.
There's God, Jesus, Moses, and me.
Well, that's
the
a reverse order.
too.
Yeah.
You got going on.
I like how you put me on the heaven side and you're on the brick side.
I'm on the brick.
He's a brick shit house.
I almost put the green screen behind you. I'm like, some people might not be okay with that because they're like, what are you going to put behind me? Just like weird like images. Like I usually just do fractals, but like pretty much behind you the whole time can be just like a moving image. Like
just
you could be out in the
naked
ocean.
people. So all people are looking at,
That's
because
what a lot of people want.
you know, naked people behind there, and then then when they're calling me a dick, there's a bunch of us on here.
It's like, man, YouTube would ban it. Otherwise, it'd be pretty funny. You know,
that would be really funny. Rick, we put you in. You know, I used to tell people my porn name would be. Obviously, my
Long John
real name
Silver's.
is Richard Dancer, so I'd be Dick Dancer.
Dick
my
Dancer.
You know, and it was like Dick Dancer, and they'd go, "That's your porn name?" I said, "Yeah, it's still entertainment.
Dick
you know,
Dancer.
come on, it's the same thing. You know."
My only move is the helicopter. That's all I know. I'm a Dick Dancer. We are, because you have a hard out at 4. We got a couple 5 minutes. Do you have anything like you want to promote, like your own work or things that you hope just like morals that you like think people should like maybe embody to live happier and healthier lives? Because you are, I would consider, a very successful person. You're happy, and you've honestly succeeded because of the fact that you don't have someone who could fire you. Those are 2 metrics of success. And I'm like, do you like, what would you profuse to people that if anyone's like listening and be like also feels the same way, that they could kind of latch on to and kind of incorporate into their lives to live a better life?
I think the biggest question I always get from millennials is, what would your 62-year-old self tell your 30-year-old self?
Yeah, let's go 24.
Okay, 24. But
give
any
me personal
younger
advice.
in there, you know what it is? It's just relax and do your life. I think people get so freaked out. I did. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to get to do what I wanted to do. And then also don't get locked into what you think you want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think when you're more open to just letting, like, I don't try to control my life as much. And it's like, so when you do, all of a sudden, so I'm looking at this piece of property in another state because I am leaving.
Wow.
I'm moving to Montana.
Whew, you belong there.
Congrats.
So thanks.
Seriously.
So I'm going to continue my business, but from there, and I'm expanding. So we're expanding to do more, but we're also going to tell stories from Montana and Idaho and all these other places.
It's got to be such a trip because you're so community based in Oregon that you're going to be like, okay,
it's going to be a stretch.
It's Montana. It's not based around you guys, but still, it's interesting, you know.
Right, and I'm going to have it's going to be really
wild.
different and doing things differently. But I think it's going to be the right thing. But anyway, so I called one of the places we're looking at. We want to do an Airbnb in the basement.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, somebody said to me, do you have to have a permit? You know, and I thought, oh, I better call. So I called the planning department in this little county, and the lady goes, oh no, you don't have to. You can do what you want. And then I says, oh, she goes, where are you looking? And I said, oh, this piece up here, blah blah blah. And she goes, oh, I live right down the street from it. So here's this woman. I haven't bid on this house yet.
Fun.
I'm telling her, she's telling me everything about who built it.
Wow.
What the hill's like, to be careful, there's some rattlesnakes out there. I mean, she's giving me all this stuff, and I'm going, so see, that's what I mean. If I am controlling my life, those things, the magic doesn't happen. If you're more open to going, hey, I'm just living it out and checking it out, all of a sudden it's like, wow, that piece got put here. And it's really, I think when we're younger, we try so hard to be something, and instead of just being something and letting that turn into what we are. You know what I mean? So my other piece of advice would be, there's a ton of people in this world, their hearts are beating and their lungs are moving, but they're not alive. They're walking around doing shit that they don't want to do, and they're unhappy. So go find your happy. Go find the thing that makes you come alive and do it. Because too many people waste their lives. And that doesn't mean you can't have a job waiting tables or whatever.
Keep your job while you start this, and then
but that's not.
It's not
I
a
love
one-day change.
I love people who wait tables. If you're good at it,
you
can make a ton of money, and they are. There's nothing better than going to a restaurant and having a great server. But I'm talking about a lot of people that are extra
jobs. There's a couple
jobs.
things better than that.
Well, but
if we're being honest here.
But that's a great. I mean, it's really fun. It makes your evening. You know, it can make that other.
Oh, absolutely.
It can make the sex afterwards much better.
There we go.
If you have a great
I was
evening,
gonna say the meal.
if you have good, if you have good dinner, you have a good server, you know things are going to be good after that too.
Yeah.
So, but my point is that people should just go find things that make you. If you're working at a job you don't like, then what's the thing that makes you have passion? So start a podcast and then keep your job. And then when it's time, you'll have to jump, because it never is just like, oh, look, we just got a $100,000 check.
Yeah.
We can start a podcast. No, it's always going to be, I have to give up something to find something new. And my whole life has been giving up something and jumping. And that's what I'm doing now. It's like going,
it's
okay,
a big
I'm going to
jump.
give up all this stuff and I'm going to jump into this new thing and see what happens.
Yeah.
And my wife and I are super excited
I
about
bet.
it.
Less fire danger. You don't have to every single year, like, hey, this fall, are we
Well,
going to have to fucking worry about evacuating again?
When you get past Bend,
Yeah.
the rest of Oregon and Idaho and Montana, they're taking COVID seriously, but they're still being human about it.
Freedom?
And I just
That's
but
something's
I-
wrong
I,
there.
I mean, even human, where you're allowing people to just. It's just not the conversation of the day.
Yeah.
Where you're just. I went in a Big Sur, walked in a place, and this lady, I didn't have my mask on because they had a sign out that said, you didn't have to. And
Nice.
I walked in, and she was just kind, and we experienced nothing like what sometimes in Western Oregon. I think we're very afraid in Western Oregon.
Yeah.
And I think, so for us, that's not why we're leaving. We were planning to do this all along, but COVID kind of made it possible. One, because I realized I can be here, and through my programs on my computer, I can do all that other stuff too.
Yeah.
And then it gave me the bravery. I had an investor come in. He invested some money, said, I want to do this because I like what you're doing. So I'm hiring people that are professionals to come in, fill up some of the void I'm going to have, but then I'm going to
Awesome.
bring in, hey, this is
You're expanding.
well, the lady I talked to today,
Yeah.
she's like, well, we're sheep ranchers. I said, oh, is that a thing? Yeah, because I don't know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she goes, oh, yeah. And she says, maybe we'll have you down with your camera or something during lambing season. And I'm going,
That would be fun.
there's my stories.
Yeah.
See what I mean? So all of a sudden you just start showing people the world that's outside of the valley, and you start seeing some different things. And so for me, it's like, plus for me kind of just personally,
Yeah.
it's like I've been Rick Dancer for 35 years in this town, and
It's
everywhere I go,
Be
I'm
nice
Rick
to-
Dancer.
Yeah, it'd be nice to not be seen
I can go
11
into
times in a store.
I can go into a tiny little town
Yeah.
and just be Rick Dancer.
That'd be fun.
Not
Dick Dancer.
yeah. I'll
Dick
check.
Dancer call you now.
Mackenzie, I'm changing my name just because of you. Yeah. Hey, what's your name? And it's how you say it too. You go, Dick Dancer, and then you go,
You do it while
if
you're
you know what
telling
I
me.
mean.
I'm Dick Dancer. Closing out. Like, that's your ending for
yeah.
the
So,
news
so
radio
here's
show.
here's my advice.
Have a good evening.
Here's
This is
the
Dick
fun
Dancer.
advice for to lighten up at the end. So Al Peterson, he was on my show last night. And he's the weatherman at our station for years. And Al and I used to. The funniest thing is if you know what I mean the right way, it makes everything dirty.
know what I mean.
So
It's good.
Mackenzie, it's been really fun. If you know what I mean.
A waiter's the
Or-
best thing in the world, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Al used to say, but also in bed. Hey Rick, let's go meet. Let's go talk in bed.
In bed.
It makes everything nasty. So
Fun.
try that with your friends.
Yeah, we'll have to do it.
Good advice.
Thank you
Mackenzie's
everyone for
going,
listening.
yeah, that was deep. What a dumb fucker.
I appreciate everyone listening. This was a blast, and hopefully, I mean, how long till you move to Montana?
I can do it from afar. There's programs.
No Zoom for me, but
No,
if you're
not
ever
Zoom.
in town,
StreamYard.
okay, I'll have to look into
look
it.
it up. Look up StreamYard.
Lots of love, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is Rick Dancer, and we're out.